Fellow citizens of Africa, I greet you in the name of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League of the World. You may ask, what organization is that? It is for me to inform you that the Universal Negro Improvement Association is an organization that seeks to unite into one solid body the 400 million Negroes of the world, to link up the 15 million Negroes of the United States of America with the 20 million Negroes of the West Indies, the 40 million Negroes of South and Central America, with the 280 million Negroes of Africa, for the purpose of bettering our industrial, commercial, educational, social, and political conditions.
Race first, 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 race first.
I would like to introduce our guest for this evening's podcast recording. The topic of our podcast this evening is how do we introduce a race-first ideology into our youth? And the special guest we have for tonight is a great brother and a fellow Garveyite of ours. He's the president of Division 406 in 106, I'm sorry. He's the president of Division 106 in Baltimore, and he also has a youngin' with him as well this evening. So I would like to introduce our special guest to you guys, President Everett Winchester of Division 106 in Baltimore.
Peace and blessings, family. Race first, as usual. Race first all the time race first. President Everett of Division 106, Baltimore UNIA, Division Barker Clark, named after the great General Hannibal Barker and a great scholar, John Henry Clark. And on the side, coming along the show with me, is our Division Technical Chair, Brother Cameron Hopkins. You want to introduce yourself, Brother Cam?
Yes, how y'all doing today? My name is Cameron Hopkins. I'm out here in North Carolina. I've been with UNIA for about 6 or 7 months now, and we're pushing strong. So trying to see what we can do in the college arena.
All right, and I'm going to introduce our guest again, Nellie Nell. She's a freshman in high school. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Just give her your name, your age.
Okay. My government name?
Yeah, Nellie Nell. Nellie Nell today.
Okay. I'm 14. I'm in high school.
And you're going to add to the conversation.
I'm going to add to the conversation.
Okay. So, you want to get into the topic of today's show, Brother Abdullah?
Yes, indeed, Brother Alton. Tonight's topic, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to expand upon what my dear brother Everett had introduced to us at our UNIA convention back in August in Detroit. And he did a powerful presentation along with Brother Amir. Am I saying his name correct? Omesius of Atlanta?
Brother Omesius.
He is from Atlanta. And they had a powerful presentation that they presented to the convention on how to spread the ideology of race first and also Garveyism to HBCUs, and also get the young people's perspective of how could we spread race first, introduce it to them, and also spread it amongst them, because we're living in a time where many of our youth, they are branding more forward towards a integrationist point of view, especially with the popularity of Black Lives Matter. And amongst our youth, many of them do not know what race first is, let alone being pro-black. And many of them don't know Marcus Garvey. You know, you go to a lot of Black Lives Matter rally, many of them do not know what the meaning of the red, black, and green flag really means. They think that it belongs to Black Lives Matter, but we can't blame the youth for that because they just don't know the knowledge and the history. So therefore, some of the youth that do know a little bit of the history and the knowledge, we want to get their point of view of what they think race first is and how can we help them to introduce a race first ideology more to our youth, especially at the HBCUs, and with Nellie Nell in the building. How could we spread this knowledge to our high school students as well?
one of you brothers want to chime in on that, Brother Everett or Cameron?
If I may, I'd like to share my screen, and I can bring up the presentation if that's all right.
For sure. This is an audio podcast, but we'll see your presentation. So yeah, for sure. Let me give you the Sister Tanaya. Could you give him the Okay, you should be able to share your screen.
Yeah, I got it on.
Okay.
All right, so like the brother Abdullah said, and just to give you guys a little bit more of a background, I'm in college right now. I'm at ECU, East Carolina University, out in Greenville, North Carolina, and I'm studying software engineering. And from what I've seen, as you know, within the school system, the regular educational school system, high school, middle school, and whatnot, we're not really taught about our history. We're taught about MLK and like he said, integrationists. I had a dream speech, this, that, and the third. But as I stepped into college, I also saw that it continued, but on an even stronger level. And like the brother Abdullah hinted to, is that we lack a knowledge of self, especially as children. And so this presentation came together because I was in college and I was telling myself that I'm not really seeing any youth in the UNIA like I feel like I should be. It's mostly adults. And I came to the conclusion that we needed to basically in our wording for what we stand for is that we are a fraternity. And I guess you can say a sorority too, as far as females goes. And so my thing was, how come we're not on the college campuses? And I decided to put together this, this presentation or whatnot, or this strategy to start seeing how we can start including the youth and basically fighting back this white supremacy. Because, what we don't know, we can't really implement. So if we don't know that we were pharaohs or kings and queens, this, that, and the third, or that we built a lot of different things, we can't come to the oppressor and, I guess, fight back in so many words. So, does anybody have anything to add or any questions pertaining to the presentation? Abdullah, what were your thoughts on it?
When I saw the presentation at convention, I was totally amazed at the concept of you breaking down what you felt, what was needed to be presented at these HBCUs for our young people, but also you had solution-oriented outlets on some of the things we can do in order to implement some form of race first and Garveyism to our young people. And also I want to salute Brother Everett, because Brother Everett did a powerful job of making the presentation known and just clearly explaining why our youth aren't being introduced to Garveyism as we would like it. Like you said, brother, earlier, you're absolutely correct. When you do go to a lot of mass meetings in the UNIA, you see more older adults than you do young people. And for the UNIA to grow, we're gonna have to have an active presence of younger people active and involved. And I think one method we should use is insert some of their ideas and incorporate some of their philosophies into how they would like for the race first ideology to move forward. So that was my whole perspective of how I viewed the presentation. I just thought that, understanding how these fraternities are used as these HBCUs, and also introducing some of that Garveyism to them, because you go to a lot of these HBCUs, some of them they do have some form of pro-blackness to them, but because of they being Eurocentrized, they don't know the true story. They don't know the active history of what our people have generated. So your presentation and how Brother Everett explained it was very much needed. I'm telling you, brother, if you was at convention, you would have been amazed at how enlightened many of the older people at convention were at the presentation. Brother Everett, would you like to add on to your thoughts of this presentation and your thoughts of how you feel our younger people need to be more introduced to a race first point of view or ideology?
Yes, thank you again, Brother Abdullah. And first of all, Brother Cam, that presentation that he did, I mean, I wish you were there to present it, because as well as I thought I did, I could not fill your shoes. The way you flow on it is phenomenal. But I will say this, when we start talking about Marcus Garvey, Garveyism, and the UNIA, a lot of the youth don't even know who he is. They don't know the history of Marcus Garvey or the UNIA. You also see a lot of people that may be considered Pan-Africanists flying the flag and raising the flag, but don't have a clue about the UNIA. There's a YouTube show, shout out to this brother Sarnetta. It's called Sarnetta Studios. I believe his other channel's Black News 101 or 102, but it's an old video, and he has up a picture, a poster, and it has a white Jesus, I believe Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and maybe Martin Luther King. And he went around and asked a bunch of people, including a lot of young people, who did more for black people? And most of them picked white Jesus. They didn't even catch it that, we're selecting a white Jesus. Most people just, Jesus did more for black people. Jesus did more. They skipped over Malcolm, who was a follower of a lot of the philosophies of Marcus Garvey, and his father was in the UNIA. And of course, they probably selected Martin Luther King. But the issue is, they didn't know who Marcus Garvey was. They were just looking like, who's this guy with a funny hat? And Marcus Garvey brings a lot of the powerful tools to really unite black people. When he says, where's the black man's God? Where's the black man's army? Where's the black man's government? I don't see one, so I'm going to create one. That's what the UNIA is. And so it's very important that a lot of our youth understand what the UNIA and Garveyism is. And we have to get out there and teach it. It's very important. A lot of our great institutions now, the Nation of Islam, the whole system is copied off of the UNIA philosophy. And so we really need to get back to educating our youth. It's very important. I'm glad we have a young sister that's in high school, because I think this goes beyond just college. I think what you created can go right into high school as well. And I think we need to even look at the younger ages. We need to start teaching about the true Garveyism and the UNIA and the true Pan-Africanism. And so we can build up not only the UNIA, but build up the minds of our black youth to say race first.
Exactly. I have a question which anyone can answer, and just let me know who wants to answer this. Where do you guys think the disconnect lies between the older generation and our younger generation that's coming into Race First, who even understand the ideology but might not want to be around the older generation because of the way they explain stuff? Or I'm gonna stop it right there, but where do you think the disconnect lies at?
I guess I can go first. I think the disconnect lies at how the youth views the UNIA. Because it's been we were so large at one point, and because of a lot of things that happened, we downsized. And I think a lot of people, especially the youth, if they know anything about Marcus Garvey and the UNIA, think we're dinosaurs. You know what I mean? They don't understand. And then you have a lot of other people that steal the philosophies of the UNIA. And so there's a lot of stuff going on, and they really don't get the grasp or learning about Marcus Garvey early in life. I'm 50, so I would assume my mother, and my dad, they grew up with a little more knowledge of Marcus Garvey. But you don't learn about Marcus Garvey really in Black History Month. They didn't teach me about Marcus Garvey in Black History Month. And it's a lot of things that he did that, if people would follow Garvey today, we'd be more united as a culture. So I think it's also systematic. I don't think it's just a disconnect. I think it's systematic that, people don't know who Marcus Garvey is for a reason. And so we got to make sure that we start connecting with the youth, because a lot of the things that they're doing now are philosophies of Marcus Garvey. They just don't know the origin of it. And so they're not connected to it. I hope that makes sense.
If I may jump in.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Coming from a little bit of a younger generation than Brother Everett, I look at it from a little bit of a different point of view as far as the disconnect goes. For myself, my own experiences is I look at it like my grandparents taught me Christianity, and Christianity doesn't really preach black empowerment or black nationalism. And, you know, my grandmother, she basically raised me, my grandmother and my grandfather, and, you know, their grandparents basically raised them, and so on and so on. And, you know, we're taught, whether it's Islam, but mainly Christianity, you know, we're taught early on to pick that up. And, you know, as time goes by or whatnot, I feel like that has dampened us from even looking at black empowerment, because it's all about submission, in my opinion, when it comes down to Christianity. And, you know, when I meet a lot of black people, or a lot of older black people, basically, they're not, you know, how can I put it? They're not about black empowerment. They're not about trying to do anything black empowerment. So when it comes down to the youth, in my opinion, I can't really connect with a lot of older people, because they're not about fighting back against white supremacy. A lot of them don't even want to admit that it exists. You know, and then Christianity also comes into play. And I kind of feel the same way about all religions in general, to be honest with you, but Christianity more so. I feel like it really, really has taken a toll on our community as far as keeping us down and misled and misinformed.
Okay, I want to hear from Nelly Nell. What is the disconnect between the older generation who's for black empowerment? Why aren't we reaching you guys? What's your opinion on that? Talk directly into the mic.
My opinion is that
take your time. What stopped you from when I say I'm gonna go hang out with the UNIA or go to a meeting and you don't want to come? Why don't you want to come? And what stops you from coming with me when I go to my black empowerment events? You talk too much. But you talk too much. Like, I see you and your friends talking. Are we talking? Just talk too much is something that you're not wanting to hear. What would be an interesting way?
Put it on social media. Because when I'm on social media, I still
don't talk directly to them.
I am. When I'm on social media, I see like a lot of black stuff, like Marcus Garvey, and I listen more, because like it's something I'm actually like listening to. But like when I'm just like going with you to the Garvey Center, like you just push it, because they just going on and on about the same thing.
Okay.
I understand it completely where Sister Nelly Nell is coming from. I agree with her. I think one disconnect is that the younger people have access to social media, and so this is where they're getting their biggest forms of propaganda from. And the problem is, and I've noticed this making content myself on social media, when there's a lack of, I wouldn't even say necessarily just Garveyism, when there's a lack of black nationalism, Pan-Africanism, and then you see all this division amongst all these groups spreading the same philosophy that we supposed to all believe in, it does serve a disconnect to the youth. Because if they see us grown folks arguing and fighting all the time, then it's going to push them further away from going for that stuff. I've had young people tell me this before, you know, like you said, you don't see Marcus Garvey on social media like that.
But she said she does, she listens. But she said when she goes to the meeting, they just go on and talk about it. She could get her information. What I pick up is that she can get her information on social media directly how she want it. But when she goes to the meetings with me and stuff like that, people just go on, and they just go on and on.
So in other words, when they go on, they don't make it exciting for you to have a little bit more a better understanding of it. Is that what I'm getting from that, sis?
Yeah.
But like I said, I still agree, because even when I first started coming to the meeting, I was like in my late 20s, but I was a little bit older. I kind of got more introduced to it just reading books and stuff like that. But when social media started really, kicking off, my introduction to it, like Brother Everett mentioned, was Shanetta. What was the brother from Detroit? Sarah Sudan-Seti. That was my introduction to Garveyism from a social media standpoint. That was like back in 2009.
And I'm the same way. I'm the same way. When I logged onto Facebook, I started seeing about it, and that's where I gravitated to. I knew about Marcus Garvey before I started going on social media, but I didn't connect with the UNIA until I made a Facebook account and then started connecting with other people who was for Black empowerment.
And another thing I wanted to say, and I'm gonna pass it over to Brother Everett. Another disc amongst younger people or older people, a lot of young people don't see us out there in the neighborhoods and the streets at all. For example, yesterday we was at New Era Chicago's event. I met some young brothers. They was fresh out of high school, 18, 19 years old, and of course they were fascinated hearing about, wanting to go see the Fred Hampton site and all that, but they honestly asked me, did we even have a UNIA chapter in Cleveland? Now, me coming from convention, of course I know that information, but the general public doesn't know, especially our young people. And when I told him yes, and the next question he asked me was, where y'all at? That's another form of disconnect I see, because our presence is not actively involved out there to where the youth can actually see us.
So do we have an old model that we're following that we should kind of remix in order to adapt to modern times?
In a sense, I think we should, kind of tweak it a little bit, because like the young sister said, when she goes to the meeting, she don't get too much out of it. But when she hear about Garveyism online, she gets more out of it. So maybe we may want to introduce a little bit of social media to these meetings. And I would say, how do you speak at these meetings? How do you get?
And then they be on social media when they speaking. We could.
And how them plug it the way that they best know how, because younger people know how to utilize social media better than we older people.
Yeah. So I'm gonna turn over the floor to one of you brothers. Anyone could chime in.
I'll chime in a little bit. And yeah, I agree with both of what Brother Abdullah said and the young sister. And Brother Cam made some good points, and to bring it all together, she said, it may not be the audience for her. And, when we start recruiting these young people, we need to think in mind of what caters to them. Maybe being around older people and they're younger, it's an uncomfortable feeling. They feel like they can't get loose. They feel like we're speaking in a different tone to them. Maybe we need to get some of our younger, and that's why we got to get younger. We got to get some of our younger Garveyites to start stepping up and speaking to the youth in the tone and the speaking volume that they can understand. So that's an important thing. We even mentioned when we start getting these college kids and the young kids, we may even have to do a younger convention. We have our annual convention, but a convention just for the youth, so they can have the kind of things that will keep them involved or the things that they like to do. So she made a lot of sense. She goes to the meetings. First of all, she's probably the youngest there. Second of all, we're probably talking intense, and we're skipping the things that she wants to hear about. The things that she can identify with as being a young girl in high school. So I agree. I think the message has to be different. We need to start doing more of a push on social media. not just for the people that we deal with, but for the youth. What will attract the youth on social media to want to learn about Garvey and to see this red, black, and green? So she made some very strong points, and we really have to look at that. Let's look at, man, if I know I got a young brother coming in, maybe I can bring in a couple of other brothers, or call my brother and have him bring in his son or somebody, so they don't feel uncomfortable in the meeting room, and we can start identifying what those points are that they want to hear, and we can get that message out to them. So yeah, she's dead on.
And before we came today, our division had a mass meeting, and I kind of feel the same way as the youth. I don't sit there really. I'm race first, but I get my information through reading and stuff like that. And like when I sit in environments like that, I had to go to church actually when I was a youth, younger, and it puts me in that mode, and that triggers something. So it's kind of hard for me to sit there and just listen to someone talk about something that I already know. So that's my take on it.
And if I may chime in just a moment, I think basically what it all boils down to is relatability. How can we relate to them? And one of the things that I would like to implement further down the road is taking the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts identity or their system and remixing it to cater us and the UNIA and whatnot. So just something I want to throw out there.
That's a good idea. I was many years ago, before I became a UNIA member, I was studying Buddhism in an organization called the SGI, and they had a cool model where they had divisions. They have like a man's division, a women's division, a young man's division, and a young women's division, and then they have a youth division. So if you fit in a certain age, you fall into one of those divisions, and each division has leaders that take care of those divisions. And one thing they do, like they have a central headquarters in every city, but they meet at each other's houses, and like the leaders, they do home visits to keep up with their members and stuff like that. So I mean, stuff like that, like we could borrow from other organizations in order to so nobody's feel left out, like, because we might just all go to like we have two divisions in our city, but we have one headquarters or one place where we go to have meetings. But somebody might live way on the other side of the city and they don't have a car. So, so sometimes like having neighborhood divisions suffice for that type of stuff. That's where I'm at with that.
Yep. One of the main reasons why I joined the UNA was because I saw like all the riots and stuff going on with the George Floyd murder. And afterward, I started basically comes to the conclusion that I need to get together with more black people and stop dealing with white people as much. So I think that a lot of times, just like when we have events like that happen, even though it's not a good thing that happens, it's an opportunity for us to jump on and grab the youth, because the youth are the ones that's going out there putting that work in the streets. So I think that when those opportunities do present themselves, that's another opportunity or lane for us to jump in and show that that we're here.
Brother Cam, I agree with you completely on that, because I remember when not the George Floyd incident, but what's the brother's name? Justin Blake happened. I was literally boots on the ground with my red, black, and green flag out there in Kenosha, Wisconsin. That incident happened 20 minutes away from my home, and so I went up there as an observer, and I instantly noticed how the youth were looking at, number one, me having a flag, because like I stated earlier, a lot of our young people, they automatically identify their flag with Black Lives Matter. But when they actually see an actual Garveyite with the flag that's away from the crowd, that's kind of stand out, you dig what I'm saying? Immediately that captures their attention, and once they capture their attention, I started going up to the youth myself and started talking to them and getting their insight of what they think about all of this stuff. Now, in a town such as Kenosha, is an integrationist town, so it is some difficulty in trying to convince our people to work collectively together only for us. But when you show them that, hey, look, you know, this isn't our fight, there's a different way of doing it, and this is how we can do it, that's one way of catching their attention. But to maintain their attention is, let's say I'm around a bunch of young people and I got 5 young black brothers, and I say, hey brother, I see y'all out here upset and mad, so you know, I try to talk to them, try to understand their anger, their frustration. And then I say, brother, we can do this on our own. All we gotta do is just, you ready to go walk the block, you ready to go, you know what I'm saying, walk around your neighborhood and try to, you know, get more intel or insight at what's really going on. And if those 5 say yeah, and they see you actually doing it, it actually will influence them or encourage them to want to, you know, participate more in actually learning about why you're different than, let's say, Black Lives Matter or any of these other groups. All they're gonna do is just no justice, no peace, but you're not doing none of that. You're actually saying, hey, look, this don't work. I'll show you what actually works. And I also want to say this as well. Another method we can use is, we know that we need security in our communities. And many of y'all youth, many of y'all young people, they do want to participate, but some of their mindset is, we ain't gonna do this for free. OMIB, Original Men in Black, they're another Race First group here in Chicago, but many of them are actually Garveyites as well. Many of them belong to Division 429. What they have started since the summertime is organize a program to where if they get enough people to volunteer to do community patrols, and if they do it for a certain amount of times each month, they will pay them for their services. And far as I know, their security patrol services all young people. All of them are under the age of 30.
Yeah, that's a great point. But you, both of you brothers said, Brother Cam, Brother Abdullah, about, you know, being at those kind of events. But you know what? At the end of the day, we as Garveyites, we got to accept the challenge that we got to do more. You know, not just, you know, an event like that where it was a tragedy. We need to start getting out to basketball, you know, parties, skating rings, wherever our youth is at, and figure out how to approach them and recruit them. You know, like I go to some of those protests like you, and you know, people see me in my red, black, and green, and you know, I see them trouble, and the first thing I say is, hey, we looking for more young soldiers. We're looking for young soldiers. We're looking for people to, you know, to help us do this thing so we can protect and serve. So you guys hit it right on the nail. We got to get to those events, but we just got to do more as Garveyites, because, you know, one thing that a lot of people don't realize, Marcus Garvey loved more than anything was the UNIA. That was his baby. And, you know, we got to keep that going, and we got to just do a lot more to get our name out there. And that's just not for the leaders of the UNIA. That's just the average person that's a member. You know, everybody should be bringing more into the table. If you truly, really believe yourself as a Garveyite, we got a mission to take care of, and we got to be on course.
I agree. I want to make a just my point of view, moving this conversation forward. When we're propagating or promoting Garveyism, I kind of feel like we should promote like a race. Well, Garveyism is a race first ideology. So if I'm first meeting somebody and I want to introduce them to this race first ideology, I'm gonna introduce them as race first, and like I'm gonna not be like, this is Garveyism, because it becomes more like it's a religion or Buddhism, and you know, religion just turns me, like Brother Cameron said, you know, I'm not for no religion. So when you say Garveyism, we kind of like put it in the form of a religion, and some people throw up walls for that. So I think that's a part of the disconnect also. Like, I mean, Marcus Garvey is an important person. He's a hero. But like, if I'm first introducing somebody to Race First, I keep it at that level. Could you repeat that? I didn't have your mic on. Sorry.
Yeah, what I was saying, and sis, you can go, you can chime. She's saying, she's saying no. What I was saying was, I think what we, even as older people, we have to acknowledge, how do we come into Garveyism in the first place? You know, for me, I didn't come into Garveyism fully embracing Marcus Garvey on the outset. What made me make the easy transition was loving being black. Loving my blackness, loving black people. And part of, I think we can explain a race first ideology is just showing love to our young people, period. You know, like me being a hip hop artist and I perform at various events, I'm around young people all the time. And I can honestly tell everyone on this platform that by me just having songs like Race First and having songs like I Love Being Black and being proud and having that positive energy, having that strong positive energy, it rubs off on young people in a positive direction to where they want to learn more. I mean, even when I was in the military, I was pro-black then, and I did not allow my pro-blackness, I did not allow the military to override my pro-blackness, because when you say you pro-black and you love who you are, you love Africa, you love your brothers and sisters, that's a deep natural feeling inside of you that can never be erased. So one method I would say we can introduce Race First to the youth, we gotta have first that love of being who we are amongst ourselves and show that to the young people on a consistent basis. Like when we at these events, talk to these young brothers and sisters, show them like, hey brother, I see you doing your thing, bro. I got nothing but love for you. You know, reach out to a young sister. You know, she may got a frown on her face. Hey, young sister, you know, I know there's something wrong with you. And you know, is you okay? Everything good? You never know. That may put a smile on a young brother or young sister's face. Who knows? You could be introducing Race First to them. Why? Because you're coming at them from a natural sense of love and care. And that's another disconnect I see between younger and older people. Why? Because a lot of older people, they are afraid of the younger people.
And I'll take it a step further, because to be proactive before an event happens.
Correct.
Where, let's say we know we have 2 youth in our chapter, in our division. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just not estimating, but I'm just throwing it out there. We have more than 2 youth, but let's say we have 2 youth in our chapter. We make one of those youth a leader and the other one a co-leader, and they in charge of promoting a race first ideology according to their definition. So they become the leader, and then now they're in charge of bringing more youth into the fold according to how they see fit. I mean, we could give them advice and suggestions. Right. I mean, it definitely has to be a race first ideology, but they bring them in if it's over social media, but they're the leaders of that. We the leaders in our division, like the men's division or the women's division, the older people division, but like have them with their own, you know, so they can do, like, empower them to do their thing. Because we don't know, like, the social media game like they know it, or even how they lingo is. I mean, she tells me I can't even say certain words because, you know, I don't talk their language.
Yeah, you know, it's that's real important, that we know what we have something for them when we bring them in. And you know, like you said, we want to make sure that we push the race first mentality, but also we gotta push everything that the UNIA has to offer. We're in the economics. You know, Marcus Garvey was a powerful businessman with a business mind, and he stressed for the UNIA to start businesses. So we should be teaching how to start businesses and having entrepreneurial classes for the youth. You know, things like that. That's the philosophy of Marcus Garvey. Reading, having young kids are struggling in school, maybe having places where we can do some tutoring. And Marcus Garvey always talked about burning the midnight oil, meaning read at night before you go to sleep, up and into the mornings, read. So we should be having those type of things that teach as well. So much that we can offer. We really just need to look at the needs of the community and have them there to attract them and bring them in. You can always read a person if you see him as a, more of a street dude. He may want to be maybe a brother that's part of the African Legion. He might be, tired of gangbanging and want to protect and serve the community. So it's a lot of things we have to offer. We just got to get out there and let them know we're here and what we offer, and push those philosophies of economics, building businesses, race first. I always tell everybody, confraternity, that's the first aim and objective of the UNIA. So I like what you said, Brother Abdullah, when you said, we got to make sure that they know we loving each other. So all of this is our philosophies, and we just got to get out there and make sure we have those things for when we and use those points to recruit them. It's very important. I'm looking now the presentation Brother Cam had, and he was like, part of access to membership, access to annual scholarships, things that we start, using. Maybe we can use a little bit of African redemption, certain scholarships, education about our African history, in the African Legion, in the Constitution, it says the Sphinx, I believe, was, there's the more Sphinx you had, the more rank you had, I believe. So, we have a lot have to teach, including our Constitution and our government, and then thinking about message to the people, how to be a leader of the UNIA. So a lot of times we forget the basics of it all because there's so much that we offer. But offering so much means that we need to be ready to use each and every one of those things to recruit. And most times when I talk to people and they say, what does it mean to be a part of the UNIA? I tell them, you got to learn. It's a lot of studying you have to do. You have to be willing to learn, and then you have to be willing to execute, and you got to be all in. So, we just got to use the model of the UNIA and look at all the things that we're trying to do in the community and we're trying to push, and make sure we have those special things available for the youth to come in and benefit from right away.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. If I may jump in, I think one of the things or strategies that we also need to use is we need to look back at what has worked for other Black nationalist organizations, in particular like the Black Panthers. Because in our history, as it shows, as far as the Black Panther goes, it was a basically all youth organization, and it's tried and true. The only thing is that the leaves were knocked off. So when it comes down to it, I think that one of the strategies that we need to use is to basically study what has been done in the past and has worked, and try to feed off of that and try to implement it for the UNIA to move forward.
Shay, I want to ask Nellie Nell, just what is her definition or opinion on a race first ideology? What is race first to you?
Race first is saying you put your own race before any race.
Do you feel that's beneficial for Black people to do that?
Yes.
In what ways?
Black-owned businesses.
So you should spend your money with Black people, and what else?
Just putting your race before any race. Like,
I have a question for Ms. Nellie Nell, if that's all right.
Okay, I'm gonna let her hear you. Hold on one second.
Oh, okay.
Go for it.
All right, Ms. Nellie Nell, as far as the whole race first mentality goes, when you hear that as a young person, does that sound like, I guess, racist, or do you think that us getting together talking about Black empowerment, does that seem like a racist thing? Does it kind of feel like a bad thing?
No, it just sounds like you and your race, y'all getting together and holding hands and just doing everything together, just putting your own race before any race.
Okay. Well, thank you for giving me that answer.
Repeat that, brother. She didn't hear you.
I said, okay, thank you for the answer.
So I have a question for either one of you guys, Cameron or Janelle. Cameron, I'm gonna ask you to go first, and then Janelle, she can go after you. How do the youth interpret being pro-black in today's society?
Interpret being pro-black. I don't know. That's I guess your wordplay is a little bit confusing to me as far as interpreting being black. To me, being pro-black is kind of like being a radical to an extent, at least in my shoes. You know, like listening to Malcolm X, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, and others such as him, even Dr. John Henry Clark. You know, it's when you listen to them, they talk so strongly about black empowerment or whatnot. It almost seems, just like as I asked your daughter, if I'm not mistaken, that it seems racist. So if you're in my eyes, if you're pro-black, it's borderline of being like you're a black racist basically. And if you say that you're a black nationalist, it's basically the same thing as saying like you're a black Nazi, but only for black people, if that makes any sense. So when I think about black empowerment and being a black nationalist, I guess you can say I think of myself as being a rebel and really going against the grain almost. So that's how I interpret it.
Okay, so Janelle, how do you see a pro-black person or see yourself being pro-black in society?
I see myself being pro-black, just listening to a lot of black people, like Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, like what they had experience of and what they was talking about through their experience and about everything what they was going through.
Okay, so I'm gonna piggyback off of that with what are some methods or strategies can we introduce the youth in terms of race first? Like, how would you tell your friends about, like, if you see one of your friends being off cold and not practicing race first, and you know that you guys could benefit off of practicing race first, how would you bring that to them? Or just how would you share being race first to a friend of yours, a black friend of yours?
I showed them a social media page or somebody.
So you show them through social media?
Yeah.
Okay, Brother Cameron?
Well, if I saw somebody who was being off code, I'd probably call them a coon. I'd say, hey man, you're cooning or whatnot. And then I would probably try to go into the history of black people or maybe some wording of Marcus Garvey, Dr. John Henry Clark, something of that nature to contradict, whatever they're doing as far as their foolery goes. So I've tried to introduce many of my friends to black empowerment, but a lot of them, they call me a racist. They call me a racist and they tell me that basically they don't want to, they don't want to get with the program or whatnot. So I really don't push it too hard anymore.
I wanted to comment on that, Brother Cam, because you said something that was real important. A lot of people call us radical or racist. In our preamble, it's nothing about being a radical or hating white people. We say we're friendly, humanitarian, educational, social, institutional, expansive construct. We don't talk about anything. We love black people. We love each other. And in order for us to get on an equal playing field as all these other races, we got to start supporting each other. You never see a black man owning a Chinese restaurant in Chinatown. But I see a whole bunch of soul food restaurants owned by Asian communities in the black community, Asian people in the black community. So that's a part and part. How can we thrive when we can't even support business-wise? I heard Dr. Claude Anderson say something one time. He was saying that he went into a black-owned restaurant and the food was awful. But he also went into McDonald's and the food was awful. The difference is everybody keeps going back to McDonald's. But we talk bad about that black-owned restaurant. They might have had a bad day, but he said he went up, asked to speak to the owner, and gave him his complaints. Like, yo, I want to support you, but you got to do better. You know, because he understood the importance of supporting each other. So we got to tell stories like that and make sure we understand the repercussions of not putting each other first. And it's not to be mean, not to hate anybody else. We are so far behind in education and financial resources, land, you know, systems of resources that we don't even have. And it's hurting us and it's affecting us as a community. You know, we don't even learn true African culture in the educational system. And why aren't we having a whole bunch of Marcus Garvey taught in the educational system? So we're already behind, and until we start putting a race first, a black agenda, into our children's minds, into our community, and start focusing on it, then we're going to fail, and we're not going to grow. We have to continue to push that philosophy. So it's very hard, you know, to talk to people when they hear race first, because they always think, oh man, here he goes with this black stuff again. I'm gonna spend my money where I want to spend my money. But we don't grow, and we got to get out of that. And that's a coon mentality. It is, especially when other cultures, they say race first all the time. That's what they are. They're programmed to do race first. The systems are for white people. You know, and as much as our people, you know, want reparations and everything, we built this country, yes, but we didn't build it for everybody. We built it for white people. So we really got to start focusing on putting ourselves first, being sovereign, building up our educational system. And all of that is a race first UNIA philosophy. And, you know, it's a blessing because that philosophy started with us. Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey took it to a stronger level. So we really got to start making sure that, you know, the mentality changes, that we're not radicals, we're not racist. Well, you know, what you want to call it, I'll own it. But let it be known that it's needed in order for us to compete at the next level. And our kids need to know that. You know, we got to do better.
Yeah, and see, one of the things I do, I have a daughter that's 10 years old, and she knows who Marcus Garvey is, and she hates she hates learning about it or whatnot. But one of the things I try to do is talk to her and give her an understanding of why we are race first. Why does it benefit us, you know, and our history most of all. So when it comes down to talking to the youth, we have to have them, or we're gonna die out. And we have to basically explain to them why we need each other and what we have to offer, so to say. Just like with any organization out there, you know, we say, what does it offer? What's the benefit of joining? And we have to be able to, when it comes down to the youth, they explain that benefit of what, you know, joining is going to be. And I guess as far as the whole race first mentality, how it's going to pan out and help us in the end, basically take back what was taken from us.
I'm gonna let Nelly Nell chime in. Here we go.
Okay, so I can agree, because when I was 10, I was learning about Marcus Garvey too, because my father, he used to make me read a book about everybody's superpower and made me write them down, and that was like very irritating, and I didn't want to learn about him either when I was doing that.
But now you see it's relevant.
But now it's kind of relevant, but now, like, when I'm listening to like everybody talking about it, I'm like, I want to learn about it more. I want to see how I can help with it.
So so at 10, I would just keep going, because you know that's gonna change in a few years. Like they grow, they change their mind in like 2 years increments, 1 year increment. Like 10, she don't want to do it. I mean, if I still made her write it, she probably still give me talk back. I gotta write this, but you know, she's showing interest even on her own.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it grows on them in time. You know, me and my daughter, I had her watching documentaries of Marcus Garvey, and we would watch it together. And one night she came and put together a plan basically on a whiteboard saying how we were gonna get ourselves together, unite, and we were gonna take back Africa. And man, you just don't know how proud it made me. So, you know, it does pay off, but we just gotta, we as parents have to be there to enforce it. So
I'm gonna let Abdullah.
And I'm gonna double back on what you said, Brother Cam and Sister Nelly Nell. It's part of the reason why I do what I do in hip hop. I've been telling people this for at least the last couple of years. I get no satisfaction personally when I do the type of music I do. I get more of a personal satisfaction when your daughter and Brother Cam, your daughter, or, you know, Brother Anthony, your kids, or Sister Tanaya, your son. I get more of a satisfaction when y'all are reciting Race First or I Love Being Black, because that to me means that it's resonating through y'all. It's resonated through y'all, and it continues to motivate me to continue to keep this thing going. And I'm gonna agree with Sis on this too. I'm using social media in my own platform to actually gain that understanding with younger people. I mean, just the other day I had a younger person. He was from I think he was from DC, but he was like 19, and he was like, man, bro, you teaching, man. Please keep it up. Please keep teaching us. We need this. And I think part of that race first ideology is, if some of us older people, we know that we have it because we've done the research, we've done the reading, we've done the studying. But now that we got these tools to our arsenal that we can reach out even further, even more so than just a regular UNIA meeting, if we utilize that and get more of our young people, not per se, let's say they may not even want to join the UNIA, but they want to learn more about a race-first ideology. I think that's more of a promising step to get them introduced to race first, and then get them acclimated, and then get them used to being proud of being race first, as opposed to wanting to approach them for UNIA recruitment right off the gate. So I'm actually proud that we got the youth on this show today, because like Sis said, you know, when I was younger, I had an older cousin and an older uncle. They were studying, you know, they were to Farrakhan back in the 90s. You know, they went to the Nation back then. And I never forget when I first saw the Million Man March. I think I was 11. And there was a young boy, and I was bored with all of the speeches until this one kid. He was my age, 11 years old. And I swear you thought you heard a young version of Malcolm X speaking the same type of rhetoric Brother Malcolm was speaking as a grown man. And that made me I would say that even further influenced me to want to be more pro-black at that time. I just, you know, when you're young, you kind of have no sense of direction of what you're doing because you don't have the proper leadership. At least, you know, Brother Alton, you're there involved in your daughter's life. Brother Cam, you are there in your daughter's life, you know, and everybody else on this platform as well. We're all active and involved in the lives of our children. But what I also wanted to say, Brother Cam, you said something that had me thinking. You stated earlier that, you know, a lot of the younger people, they don't really want to hear this and stuff like that. And I wanted to ask, why do you think the younger people really don't want to identify themselves with race first or loving other black people from a young person point of view? And anybody could chime in on this question.
Well, I'll jump in first. I think it comes down to a lack of knowledge. Even with myself, I wasn't thinking anything about black empowerment until I basically ran across Dr. John Henry Clark, and I was able to start listening to him. And obviously there's many more teachers, but he was one of the main ones that I picked up. And you know, at first I was on a Christian role, and I found out about the Hebrew Israelites. And I saw how they were talking all this junk to Christians, especially in New York, and I thought it was hilarious. But as time went on, you know, the questions that they were asking the Christians or whatnot in the streets, I started looking it up myself and putting two and two together. And, you know, I was saying that it wasn't right or whatnot. And basically, you know, I had no knowledge of being black or what that represents. Like I said earlier, that we were, I hate to use the term, but pharaohs and, you know, kings and queens long before the European was, you know, even created or whatnot. So when it comes down to it, when you don't know that, you know, we were those beings, or we had all these great accomplishments, and we're only shown that we were we were monkeys, and they put us in cages, and we were running around, you know, with sticks and all this other stuff instead of being architects and sculptors and things of that nature. When you have a lack of self-knowledge and all you know is whitey, then, you know, it's gonna mess up your perception. You're not gonna be thinking clearly, you know. And then a lot of people, they keep trying to say, oh, racism doesn't exist, and, you know, it's all in your mind, and, you know, this type of thing. That's heavily put on us in school and with our parents, because a lot of our parents cooned out when they had the civil rights generation. I know I'm mixed. You know, my father, he laid down with a white woman, and now here I am. So, you know, a lot of the adults or parents that were coming up, they weren't pushing black empowerment. I asked my uncle, who's about 70 years old, if he had heard of Malcolm X, this, that, and the third, and he was like, and this is in North Carolina, but he was saying that he didn't know anybody. You know, he hadn't heard of that, and you know, it wasn't a thing. So to bring it back to my point is that I think that we are lacking, like I said, a lack of knowledge of self. If we only knew who we were, we would. The youth goes out here and they shoot and kill each other. You know, a lot of times it's about money and things of that nature, but they lack of knowledge of self. If they really knew who they were and had a love for the black man and the black woman, we wouldn't be out here trying to rob the black man and the black woman. We would be out here trying to get at other groups who get at us. So, you know, like I said, the main core thing here is, to me, is a lack of knowledge of history and of self. You know, so if we don't know what the oppressor took from us or did to us in the past, how are we gonna, you know how to move in the future with that same oppressor? So, you know, like I said, my main thing is lack of knowledge.
Ashe. I want to further the conversation. There's a push to even deny our African descendancy in this country. Like, there's a push from a certain segment of our community to say that we're not even African, that we were already in this country before the transatlantic slave trade. Are you guys familiar with that rhetoric? Or I mean, I wouldn't even call it rhetoric, because some people might believe in that, so I don't want to be offensive to anyone, but are you guys familiar with that?
I'm familiar with it, and in a sense, it's true. There were Africans making trades and coming over here. There's signs of pyramids that were here before the Mid-Atlantic slave trade. They migrated from Africa. You know, let's not forget that. They were migrating from Africa. They weren't, you know, naturally here. But if you want to do say that, we have many tribes all over. But we all one, and that's what I focus on. I mean, it doesn't. If you were here, if you weren't here, what difference does it make? You're African. You have African descent. You know, you have that African blood running through your veins, that melanin, and so, you know, you're just a different tribe. But we all have to be together, and I think that's the main thing that we really, really got to push when we're talking about the UNIA. One God, one destiny. You know, if you're of African descent, if you have that melanin in you, you're a member. We need to come together. And sometimes, you know, so much separation, and I think that's just another form of separation. You know, I'm Jamaican, I ain't this, or, you know, I'm from New York, I'm not from Chicago. And, you know, man, we black. You know, we did many tribes, but we are one. And even in African, in our history, we're very tribal people. You know what I mean? There's tribes in Africa. They don't say they're African. They might say, you know, I'm from a certain tribe or whatever. So we still need to get that one philosophy in. But I'll say, it's not a bad thing to say that you were here beforehand or whatever, but you're black, you're African. It doesn't matter. Your ancestors were kings and queens from Africa. And people were stolen from Africa or sold over from Africa to get here. And it doesn't matter how you put it, slavery is wrong. And it doesn't matter where you felt you were from, you were originated in Africa. That's simple bottom line. You can follow the history there, the origin of man. So we just got to stop being divisive sometimes. It makes me sick in my stomach that we even, have a conversation talking about where you're from or where you were born. You're black. And we all catching hell all over the world. So we're not uniting. What's the purpose of, living? So we got to do better and think of our future, our ancestors, our kids, and our children, and teach that we're all one.
And
I think,
can I say this real quick?
Go for it.
I'm a person who always said, when you point the fingers at other people, you give them the power, and also you have fingers pointed back at you. So how much do you, this question is for Brother Everett, how much would you say like tribalism plays in our condition, in our circumstances that we're in? Because like, I know we want to blame white supremacy, we would want to blame this, but how much would you say tribalism plays a part into our condition and where we at right now as far as being a race of people?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge because you think about it, Africans was warned against Africans, catching prisoners, selling man. About tribalism, think about it in America. You got your Bloods, your Crips, Black Guerrilla Mafia. You got your prison gangs, you got your sets, you got your hoods, you got your crews. So it filters down. You know what I mean? And not to say that other cultures don't have it, but it's a problem in the motherland. They're not fully connected, and it filters over to here. And not to mention the tribalism that was brainwashed into us by the slave mentality of making us separate. You light skin, you dark skin, so it plays a big part. Not just the tribalism from Africa over to here, but just the separation and division that we put ourselves into. And so we just got to change that to know that we're all one. Different tribes. I like to say that we are different tribes, but we're all one family. We're all tribes from one origin.
I say.
And that's what I would say on that, if that makes sense.
True. I want to piggyback off of that, and because I follow Tariq Nasheed. He's a proponent that's I think is kind of divisive.
Foundation of Black America. That's where you're gonna go.
Well, I'm gonna go there, but I'm gonna go further than that because my daughter, she like we all have experience with African people. I haven't had a bad experience because I'm who I am, but from his point of view, and like all the people that follow him, African people is this and that. I want Janelle to chime in about her experience with African people that she dealt with from a youthful perspective, to see if everybody's getting that same experience, or that how they feel about us and how we feel about them. I kind of want to see where she's at with it.
For me, I had a good experience with African people. I actually have a close friend. She is Senegalese and she's African. And from what I heard about African people, like their parents don't want them to be friends with like American people or whatever. But my experience, she's very nice.
And what about your teachers?
My former teacher, she was Nigerian. No, I had two former teachers. They both was Nigerian. They was cool. It wasn't how I expect them to be, but it was cool.
So, let's get deep. I remember you telling me about the one who used to wear a wig, and she said she was a princess. What did you think about that?
She said she was the princess of Nigeria, but it was like the part of Nigeria she came from, and like she wore wigs. I just thought she didn't want to be where she was from, because like, why wouldn't you just show your natural hair, or like do the natural style?
But yeah, I just wanted to share that everybody don't have that experience where Tariq and them is trying to go with like the separation and the divisiveness.
I want to add on to that, because my experiences with our brothers and sisters at home, I think that's another thing we're gonna have to start teaching younger people as well. We know that they're African, but you got to understand, in Africa, not every African calls nor considers themselves an African. They're more nationalistic as to where they come from or their ethnic tribe, more so than identifying themselves from a continental point of view. When I speak to a fellow African brother or sister, I usually say, you my brother at home or my sister at home. And my experiences with brothers and sisters have been great. And I can go back as far as when I was in the military. One of my closest friends was from Somalia. One of the darkest brothers I've ever met in my entire life. But he knew I had some form of African in me, because when he came in my room, he would see Malcolm and the red, black, and green flag. And it kind of surprised me that he didn't know anything about Marcus Garvey. But once I started explaining it to him and explaining how, Marcus Garvey was about to establish, land for us in Liberia, but he always held up Ethiopia in great regard. And for those of you who know, Ethiopia and Somalia are right next door to each other. And so when I told him that, it even encouraged him, being an African from Africa, to want to learn more about Garveyism. But as you stated, well, my position with the whole Tariq Nasheed thing is kind of counterproductive, because if you watch Hidden Colors, at least the first 4, Tariq Nasheed always had a heavy emphasis on African culture in every last one of those Hidden Color series, which heavily promoted, the African presence. But there is a divide here, because even though our experiences may have been great, but there are our brothers and sisters here who do have a poor rapport with Africans, and Africans have a similar kind of rapport with brothers and sisters here. So,
but we have poor rapport with each other. As Brother Everett said,
exactly.
The Crips don't like the Bloods. The Watusis don't like the whatever. So that's why I point the finger at us and say tribalism is a lot.
Which is why I don't like the whole FBA ideology. Listen, if you're born here, you're born here. All right, I'm born and raised west side of Chicago. That's gonna always be home. But me knowing the roots of who I really am by studying and actually learning where I'm from, I can't just say, oh, I'm just only born here in America, so therefore that makes me an American. No, my lineage extends far beyond the west side of Chicago. And another thing is, me being from Chicago, how can I beef with my own brother and sister here when I know that I got brothers and sisters all across this planet that either the same complexion as me or darker than me? So, that. Go ahead, bro. So my whole approach with the whole FBA thing is, how can you say you hate one segment when our own segment, if we're gonna consider ourselves FBA, we fight amongst each other all the time. So it's no different than you being divisive against another group simply because they're not from here.
So I think as Garveyites, it's important for us to take that conversation and direct it, because FBA could be a good thing if it was in context. Like I agree with the FBA philosophy, well, not philosophy, but the FBA lineage thing if it was political, just as a political voting block. But when you go into like, oh, this is our thing and that's y'all thing, and then even for asking for reparation, it's like we're gonna ask our white people to give us what they owed us, but our white people was taken from them anyway already. I mean, they're still taking from other people from other places. So, but we want to get reparations for ourselves, but we're not still looking at the global issue, and there will still be an issue if our white people over here give us reparations. But globally, they're still taking from us. I mean, if we consider ourselves African as a global unit. So,
yeah, I just don't get it because, I am, like you say, I'm an African American, if that's what you want to call it. I'm a black man. I'm an African that has heritage in the United States. But what am I claiming? You know what I mean? Like, they haven't given us reparations. Doesn't look like they're going to give us reparations. Slave owners got reparations. When they lost slaves, they got paid. Whenever we dropped the bomb on, I think Japan, we gave them reparations. So I don't see them giving us reparations. So we trying to rep and claim turf, but it's division. You know what I mean? I know it came from a little bit. He took it from the ADOS because he was beefing with them a little bit and say, we're foundational black Americans. And okay, we're Americans as black. It's funny because President down with this. And I was wondering, why we flew the American flag and the UNIA flag when you see all those older pictures. And it was brought to me that, it lets you know what country you're from. So if we're over here, we should have the RBG flag and American flag. And if I was in Japan, I would have the Japan flag and the RBG flag. So, it doesn't matter where you're from, you're just representing our people in that area. But we have to represent as a whole. And you know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit against the philosophy of the UNIA and its division, whether they like it or not. Rep and take all you can from the United States if you're a descendant of the United States. But once you get that, then what? We're never going to be globally powerful. We don't unite globally because everybody unites against us. They may have their own wars, but they won't allow us to get to come up. So we have to really be focused on global unification. And if we want to, and help each other where we're at, but that makes me feel real good about the philosophy of the UNIA. To make sure that we're all over the world and we're all for uniting each other. The only way that I see, that's the only organization, only government for our people. And when we start that division stuff, I just don't like it. I mean, whatever the case may be, but we got to look at the bigger picture for our people. And it's a global scale.
I say, and I agree. I feel if we don't look at it globally, and let's say some miracle happened that they do give us reparation, it's gonna be right back in the same hands if we don't have a global plan. I mean, we're gonna get it, and where are we gonna spend our money at? The same country that we got it from, with the people who own all the land. I mean, they could print money, but so they could give us money, checks, and everything, and what are we gonna do with it?
Yeah, the money eventually go. We won't get to come up. We take and we're gonna buy land, but black people get higher interest rates than everybody else. Either way, we're screwed. We're giving back the money. We're right back in the same place. People, our brothers and sisters in Brazil, they're still catching hell. In Haiti, they still catching hell. In Jamaica, they still catching hell. In London, they catching hell. In China, they getting put out of China, but everybody's trying to move into Africa. So where's the unification in? We're so focused on us here. But if we were focused on fighting for everything for our people, man, it'd be a lot better. Instead of those Chinese people moving into Africa, we'd be investing in Africa and having land over there. Making that a vacation spot for us to go back to the motherland and investing and making money and uniting and building some trade with our brothers and sisters over there. So we got a lot of work to do. We don't have time for division. If they kicking out reparations, I'm the first one in line. I'm owning my heritage here, but I'm deeper than that. I'm deeper, and I'm more powerful than a descendant of a slave. I'm more than that. My people are more than that. My history goes deeper than just being here. and I'm owning it and I'm claiming it. And that's part of me being powerful.
And I want to add on, I know ADOS, Tariq was down with that at first, but they kind of got their take from Dr. Claude Anderson. He the first one that said we should drop the African American and come up with another name, because that puts us in the same category as an immigrant. Because the Africans who come over to this country, like since the Africans who came over to this country since the 1960s, that just lumps everybody in the same bowl, and we didn't have a reparations claim if we continue to just consider ourselves African Americans. So Tariq ran with that from Dr. Claude Anderson. I understand it, but like you said, own your heritage here, but we're so much deeper than that. Like, if we're gonna do that, it should be only for political reasons. Like, we shouldn't see ourselves as different from the global African community. But like, we actually are here in America, so that's where we play politics at. So we could create a voting block for what empowers us here for Black empowerment here in America, but still see ourselves globally. And that's what I feel like that whole FBA movement lacks.
I have nothing else to add towards that, but I wanted to ask Brother Cameron a question pertaining to the presentation. Brother Cameron, I want to ask you, what made you come up with the presentation, and why do you believe your focus for the presentation should be more centered towards HBCUs in regards to spreading race first, especially to our younger people in these high schools, in these colleges and universities?
I got you. You may have to rephrase that last bit for me in a moment, but to get started, what got me started was that, as I said a little bit earlier, I felt like there was a lack of youth. As I was attending meetings, I wasn't, if I'm not mistaken, I'm the youngest member, a part of 106. And I felt like that was an issue. Where are the rest of the younger people at? And then on top of it, I'd like to find me a woman that is of, Black empowerment as well. So I'm like, where the ladies at? And with me being in college, I've used to doing presentations and stuff like that, but seeing General Cyrus Sutin-Seti, seeing him do his presentations or whatnot, it inspired me to create my own. And I basically, I came up with the idea that I wanted to do college recruitment. And the main reason why is because, when it comes down to engineers, just like you guys are talking about, yeah, we're going to get this money, but then what are we going to do with it? Well, in my opinion, yeah, the money will be good, but even if we don't have it, as long as we get the youth in college, just like what I'm going into, software engineering, any type of engineering, any type of doctrine, all of that, all of that pertains to you have to go get a degree, okay? The FBI, the CIA, the government, IBM, NASA, whoever you want to think of, that's, all these big body monopolies out here, they're all hiring Black people. They're all hiring people from college or whatnot, and the best and the brightest. So if we can grab a hold of these people and at the very least show them some Black empowerment, so they might not jump on board right now, but they can circle back around at some point. We can start really pushing the agenda where we can take over. And so, like I said, I came to the conclusion of making this because I saw a lack, and I wanted to get other youthful members to get involved with me. And so as I was looking to fraternities, I know everybody they can only hear me, but they can't see me. But as the fraternities go, at least in North Carolina, the Black fraternities are around like $1,500 just to join, and then it's like $1,000 every that to continue that. And in the Greek fraternities, they're not teaching anything about Black empowerment. They're really just doing like voluntary work and things of that nature, and also helping people get jobs. So basically where I'm going with that is they're taking money from the youth. And if you look at it, the UNIA, we only charge around $50 a year. So if we take into perspective that the colleges are charging, let's just say for a roundabout number, $1,200 a year for a black fraternity student to stay inside that fraternity, and I guess help them get employment down the road, for a 4 or 5 year college, you're looking at around $3,000 to $5,000. And if the UNIA was to get them, if we were to have them pay us and we basically do the same thing, or I don't want to say pay us, but pay dues, then they would be able to save a lot more money, and they would also be able to help push our agenda. So like I was getting to the doctors, the lawyers, all of them, they have to go through college. And if we have more black doctors, more black lawyers on our side, let's just say if we had 100 nurses that joined up in the nursing college, that's our Black Cross nurses right there. And we only need, as we all know, we don't need the whole world to join. We only need a few of the strong and the willing to really set an example and make a way. So, as I said, as I got into this, I felt like something needed to be done. And I gathered my ideas together, and I just started putting them on paper, because I feel like I wouldn't be able to explain it well just by talking about it. That I needed to be able to give visuals and give some type of roadmap for what I see as being, I guess you can say, the youth, from my vision and my point of view. Just like we were talking about how the young sister that's on the line right now, how does she see black empowerment? What appeals to her? And with this presentation that I put together, a recruitment strategies proposal, is I did that with myself. What appeals to me, or what would attract me, and where do I see that we lack and that the students could take place. As CU goes, now I have that on the presentation showing that we have around 107 HBCUs. Let me see. Yeah, there are roughly 107 HBCUs. Now, I only use the 107 HBCUs as an example, okay? That's just an example. So, I'm saying that we can make around $2 million, that not exactly that we can make, but we could generate around $2 million in annual dues after 5 years, just dealing with a small percentage of the HBCUs. I'm not attending the HBCU. There's at least 1,000 black students at my school right now. So, the presentation focused more so on HBCUs, and I said that because, hey, what's in the name? The historically black college. So that's why I particularly put that on the presentation. But when we look at things as a whole, there's thousands of colleges. The real goal is to not just target HBCUs, but to target all the colleges on every campus. And my whole thing is there shouldn't be any black students in any Greek fraternity. There's no reason why there should be any, because the Greeks stole from us. And another thing that I feel like should be implemented is that if we can get the youth to be exposed to Dr. John Henry Clark, Cyrus Suinseti, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, and the rest, if we can get them to start listening to some of their talking points, then they'll come around to us. But right now, they don't know anything about us. So I don't know if that answered your question or whatnot. I kind of went on a little bit of a rant, but if you want to, reel me back in.
No, I want to get your point of view from it, brother. Specifically because, like I said, when Brother Everett presented this at convention, he basically resonated everything you just stated. What I wanted to add on to is I agree. We shouldn't be in these Greek fraternities or anything of that sort. If we're going to spread race first, we should create our own race first fraternity at least at the local level at these HBCUs. But I wanted to add on to say, I think one method that could help out with that as well is, and I'm pretty sure Brother Everett is doing this himself, is that we start going to these colleges, these in these high schools as well ourselves. Because I'm only speaking on this from personal example. I remember a decade ago when I first got out the military, I was going back to my former school, to just see my teachers. But as I started seeing my teachers, I noticed that the young people noticed me in my Army army, workout shirt, and they started asking me questions about the military. The more I got into that, naturally, speaking on Race First, it started opening up. You know what I'm saying? I remember the last school I visited right before the pandemic. I brought my red, black, and green flag in the school, and these were 4th and 5th and 6th graders, and every last one of those kids wanted to at least touch the flag. And once they wanted to touch the flag, right then it clicked. Okay, I gotta teach them what every color on this flag means. Not only did I did that, I had to tell them what was the flag originated, who created the flag, why was we given the flag. And I'm giving this, and then this one sister, I'll never forget it. She was like 10 years old. She said, "Oh, can I write this down? All this stuff you telling me?" I'm like, "Sure." And so she wrote it down, and then when they did the assembly, the young girl went up there with she was like, "Oh, can you come on stage with me with the flag?" I'm like, "Nah, you and your classmates, y'all bring the flag up there, and then you go up there and you say everything you just wrote down." Just by being that example alone, just by my presence alone, it showed the youth that there's someone out here that not only cares, but we're here to help and teach, as well as give the youth some form of inspiration. So I want to ask both you and Brother Everett, do you think that us as Garveyites, we can actually help you guys out more by having an active presence, going to these, colleges and these universities and also these high schools where we can actually sit down with the youth and explain to them with a boots on the ground approach firsthand on what Race First is and actually show them? Do you think that will be just as effective as of bringing this ideology to our youth?
If I may go first, Brother Everett, I love the idea of visiting campuses, but I'm just gonna be 100 with you, brother. I don't think that the school leaders or whatnot are gonna allow us to go out there and push a race first mentality. And as far as my idea of having a UNIA fraternity, now I'm not saying that all campuses are gonna be this way, but for the majority, the most part of campuses, we're gonna have to have a UNIA fraternity outside of the campus. So, let's just say you personally, and it may or may not be the case, but more than likely, if you were to just go out to whatever campus, the Chicago University, I don't know what they got out there, but if you were to just go out there and start, marching around with your race first flag and talking about race first mentality, I would like to believe that they're gonna try to get you escorted off campus for the most part. So yeah, we do want to tackle the campuses, but for my idea is that what we need to do is first we need to get somebody in that's going to the campus and have them work as kind of like an undercover agent in so many words. I don't think that we're just going to be able to just literally walk on campus, set up a booth, and start saying, hey, this is what we're about. Come join us, this, that, and the third. Although we know that, we're not a racist group, when white people hear what we have to say, when, we're talking about, no, don't join the Greeks, come over here and we're going to talk about black empowerment. And, the Greeks, they stole this and this is ours. Once them white people start hearing that, they are not going to be happy. You're going to be upset in their day, because that's what they believe in. So like I said, it may or may not be the case, but I would like to believe that in most instances, we're not just going to be able to walk up and just hit campus any type of way, that we're going to have like an inside person to draw initiates in at the very least.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so we would have to have like a covert way of going about it.
Yeah, and my thing was, what I had planned to do was to put together some flyers, which you can see on the screen right now. And this is just an example or whatnot. And this would be, the picture would be the front or either the back, and then then you have the writing on the other side. And to go around and passing out flyers of this nature to different students, saying, hey, what we believe in, and about self-reliance, purity, what you're going to gain as far as what are the benefits of becoming an active member. And just to read off a few of the ideas that I came up with is access to mentorship, access to annual scholarship awards, access to expanding networks of skilled and like-minded peers and elders to work with, education about African history, raw and uncut, Sarasu Seti style. So, my whole thing was if we can get even at parties or whatnot, or the Greek events, if we can go around and pass out things of this nature to bring them in. Now on the flyers they have barcodes or what's it called, Brother Everett? Not barcodes.
QR code.
Yeah, QR code. Yeah. So in the QR codes, one, it should take you to the website, and then basically want to have the other to take you to YouTube or whatever the case may be, so you can see videos on what the UNIA is and what we're about. And I'm hoping that is one of the ways that we can bring the youth in. And also, I'm a part of the National Society of Black Engineers, and I've only been to like 1 or 2 meetings so far, but I'm trying to gauge on how I can basically bring them in as well, see who is about Black empowerment first, and then feed off of those few. Because a lot of times, there may be, let's just say if there's 10 Black people, you might only have 2 or 3 that's willing to, even listen to what you have to say when it comes down to this. So, even if we can get 1 or 2, we can start building off of that and pushing further.
So this being solution-based radio, 2 key solutions that I picked up today from our conversation on how to spread a race-first ideology to our youth is by going out to the colleges and schools, like one with the flyer that you presented right here, Brother Cameron, and then also what Nelly Nell says, the social media, like start a social media campaign where we're producing social media videos that entertains the youth so that they can share it amongst them, or maybe even add them into the videos that they're sharing and have them explain what Race First means to them, to their friends, and making videos of that sort.
I would go even further by insisting that, just showing the example as well. For example, whatever meeting or event you're at, if you have, for example, your flag with you, that's going to instantly capture young people's attention. Go up to them, talk to them, show them, have them wave the flag, and then explain the colors of what it means. If they want to show it off on social media, let them show it off. Tell them, that's your flag, brother. I just brought the flag with me, but it's our flag because this represents a universal form of our people. So I agree with Brother Cameron when he says if we're gonna go in these colleges and campuses, we gotta have some form of a type of an agent. Like when I did that assembly, when I was talking about the young people, one way I even got on that program was a sister. She was basically Race First, and she was a teacher at that school, and the school gave her permission to hold like a Black History assembly. And so that's how I was able to get there in the first place. So, we're gonna have to use examples like that. And also when we're out and about, get involved with talking to the young people. I truly believe that's the biggest disconnect we got for our young people. Like Nelly Nell said earlier, when she go to a meeting, she ain't even interested really in it because it ain't nothing. It's not entertaining or intriguing. Many of the older people, some of them are kind of standoffish when they want to speak to young people per se. I've noticed that in any type of Black function I've ever gone to, and I think that's the wrong method or approach we should be generated towards our younger people, and give our young people a voice. They have a voice.
Yeah, we have to empower them.
Because I was watching Hear the Colors earlier today, and Umar Johnson made this great point. He said the problem is we have too many older people leading the forefront of any Black movement, whereas they should be elders. They should be the mind, the wisdom, our youth. And like Brother Cameron said, the reason why the Black Panthers was so powerful and important of their day was because it was ran primarily by the youth. And so, where you have the elders as the mind and the wisdom, and of course, because we should never remove our elders from anything that we do, but our youth have to be the catalysts out there pushing everything to the forefront. They have to be the charisma. They have to be the voice. They have to be the ones that we give them the wisdom. It's sort of like you being an OG and you got the youngest coming in the game. Hey, you had your time. You had your day in the spotlight. Take your due. Give the game to the youngest so that they can take it even further than what you did when you was in their position at your time or their time.
So, what would you do as a UNIA leader, Melly Nell?
I'll try to spread the word more to everybody. Post it online, tell family about it, tell friends.
So you would tell them in what ways, like you online, just posting online. Okay. Okay, and Brother Cameron, I'm gonna turn it back over to you and let you continue.
All right, where would you like for me to take off from? A lot was just said.
Just continue on the conversation of how what would you like to see for us to continue to spread the message of race first to our young people? How can we get more active, more involved? What can we do? Whether it's you or guys like myself, Brother Everett, Brother Alton, what can we all collectively do to get our younger people more involved and spreading this message to our younger people, or even listening to our younger people and their interpretations of race first?
Well, I think one of the things that I guess the older adults could do is to just sit back and just kind of like what we're doing now. Asking me and asking Miss Nellie Nell how we feel about things. What is Black empowerment to us? Do they see racism and things of that nature? Trying to reach out to the youth, and not just on college campuses. Just like there are a lot of kids that are homeless as well, homeless with their parents. And we want to push like a homeless initiative as well. And so we got to try to reach out to the youth in different areas where basically it's needed. Just like in Baltimore, I know that a lot of the youth, they don't really have places to go play. I don't really promote playing sports, but to go play basketball, like recreational areas. Instead, they just got hoods, and you can post up on the block, this, that, and the third. There's nowhere to really go and do anything constructive. And one of the ways that I feel like we could really make an impact as far as the youth goes as well is to try to come together, and we do meetings online, but to do meetings in person and try to get those young kids around the community to come into those meetings with us as well. And like I said earlier, ask them, what are their needs? What are they lacking? Is there any issues in the home? Try to be mentors to them, because a lot of times, I'm not really gonna speak on Black men in general, but it's our duty to mentor the youth. And me personally, I really didn't have a lot of good mentoring. It's kind of like I'm trying to find out how to be a man on my own. So with older brothers or whatnot, just speaking and talking to the youth and trying to get out and do events to bring us together, and like I said, ask what is needed. Figure out what's going on in their mind or in our minds or whatnot, because there's a difference here. So, and a lot of times when I talk to the older adults, I feel like they're kind of stuck in one method of movement. So I may have many grand ideas or ways that I feel like the UNIA can progress forward, but a lot of the older people may not exactly feel like, that's something that they want to do. And I feel like that's one of the things that also puts the youth off, is the older adults, they don't really want to go along with what the youth want to go with sometimes. Just like how the youth was out in the streets cutting up, tearing things up. When the riots were going on all throughout America, a lot of times the older people really weren't out there talking to the youth. And just like how Abdullah, you said you were out there with your red, black, and green flag, and you were out there talking to the youth. That sets an example for them. And then also you're making music. I appreciate your music. I ride with your music, and I make my daughter listen to it as well. And even though she doesn't say much about it, she has to think about every word that you put in that song. As it goes through, she's not really thinking about it consciously, but as it goes through, she's picking up those Black empowerment words. And for you to continue to put out more and more music, Black activism music, that's another way to really touch the youth, because we love our music, we love our bass and rap, this, that, and the third. And for you to take it and remix it and bring it back to what it really kind of came up from, was our struggle and our movement or whatnot. For you to take it and then and bring it into a Black empowerment era or whatnot, it's helpful, So I think that's some of the ways that we can kind of approach it.
I say, from a grassroots perspective, I would like to see us divisionalize like our youth, like the point I stressed earlier, like have age groups and then have leadership in those age groups and let them be their own leaders and just empower them to do their own thing. So when I say own thing in a race first ideology. So however they want to do it that pertains to that race first ideology, let them give them the power and give them the support to do their thing.
I totally agree, and Abdullah, maybe you can also give a little bit of insight as well, and maybe you won't, but I know that you practice Islam or whatnot. Do you have any idea how they do in the Nation of Islam as far as the youth and attracting the youth and things of that nature? Do you have much?
I've never been a member of the Nation of Islam, so I don't know how the nation even does any activities with the youth, because me being Muslim, that's just a personal faith belief for myself. So I try not to even introduce people, for the most part, to Islam that's not interested. I kind of keep those two separate. Brother Malcolm said it best, that keep your religion at home, keep it in the closet, because if it ain't doing nothing for our people, you should forget about it anyway. So, like my name, Abdullah, for example, it generates interest. Why? Because not many Black people walk around with that name. And then, it's a unique name. And then when I explain that name, I can also bring it back to a conscious form of view, because the name itself just means servant of God. And as even conscious people, I think the greatest contribution we can do for our people is serving our people. So when I say I serve God, yes, I serve the Creator, but my greatest contribution in serving God is serving our people and representing for our people. And that's why, I was so glad that I interact with Brother Everett and also you, Brother Cam, and I know we follow each other on social media as well. So I would like to ask Brother Everett what is his thoughts on everything we just spoke about, far as like how could we make this even more attractive to the youth, as opposed to just standing on the sidelines as older people. Because yes, you're right, older people oftentimes are more set in their ways, and they do have one position that they want to continue to spread on race first. But I think we should be more proactive with more creative ideas, especially getting this out to the youth. And like you said, Brother Alton, having those different type of groups where our youth is in their divisional group, and they can develop and learn leadership capabilities and positions right in that group, and then get molded and guided by the older people.
Well, I would say we had a lot of great ideas today, and we need to implement all of them. But we also gotta teach. The word is recruiting. A lot of people don't want to say that word, but at the end of the day, that's what we're doing, and that's what made Marcus Garvey so great. So while we're recruiting and we have all these great ideas, we gotta really focus on, I guess the word is patience. What's he said? never turn in the organization and say that you still want to organize all Negroes. Every that is lost prevents the ultimate achievement of the aims of the organization. Then he tells us we always gotta make sure that we have patience when dealing with our culture, our family, our Negroes, because we're uneducated. We gotta have tolerance. He talks about how we've been so Christianized. I think Brother Cam mentioned that. So we must practice patience and have time to civilize us from that reality. So we're gonna go into people that's not gonna feel our ideas. We gotta keep figuring out new ways to attract the youth. We gotta use the stuff that we talked about today. And if it doesn't work, we can't quit. We gotta go back at it and figure out another method. That's the only way for us, and we gotta be patient because it's gonna take time to recruit a brain. So I like all the ideas, and I think that we be proactive in pushing it. We can't be lazy. And Marcus goes that the main thing, the number one objective is to go out and recruit. We've lost a little bit of that of late. There was a lot going on in separation between us, and now that we have our good energy back and the UNIA in the direction and we're coming up with these ideas, we gotta go out there and make it happen. You know what I'm saying? We gotta go out there and make it happen. I gave myself October. I'm waiting to get onto Coppin State campus, and if that falls through, then I gotta do the backup plan. I gotta walk up to Coppin State, get up on campus, pass out flyers, introduce myself, and talk to people to say I at least got up there because the connect didn't come through, which I'm pretty sure they're gonna come through, but we just gotta push. It may not be the way we want to get out there, but we gotta make sure that we're out there in every way to make sure people not only know that we are back, that we're here, that we never were gone, that revitalized, we're energized, and we have something for them. We're not just some old people preaching old things. We're preaching the right thing, and we're bringing it in a new flavor that they can identify with. So we really got to focus on recruiting, and we need to go make sure that everybody we got I think Tuesday, Message to the People class begins with Atlanta. I suggest anybody that's a leader of the UNIA officer take that course because it teaches you, about recruiting, and it's kind of old school, but some of the same philosophies are still there. It's just how you go about doing it, and it's real powerful. So we really got to be true to ourselves as Garveyites. I think the President General always says, you in the UNIA, but is your wife in the UNIA? Are your kids in the UNIA? It's okay if they're all not, but how can you rep it and your family isn't in it? So are we even talking to our family members right? I know you guys are educating, but we still got to be the guys that come up and they say, here he goes, something to say, and that's okay. Maybe we got to change the message so we're not irritable. We try to have guest speakers at meetings to attract people. We need to do more of that. Like Brother Cam said, we got to start doing more in-person meetings or events to bring people in. We've already talked about doing an award ceremony for people that do work in the community and invite their families, and another way to try to recruit. So we got a lot of ways we can do it. I love the ideas, but we got to go out and do it. And we got to be patient. We can't get discouraged by the no's. And we got to realize if one way that we're approaching people doesn't work, take a step back and listen, and then come with another way. I think that's really a crucial thing. We just got to stay at it because our people need this philosophy of race first and being unified globally. It's important.
I totally agree, Brother Everett. Recruiting, that's absolutely necessary. And also agree with Brother Cameron as well by just staying proactive with the type of music that I create. Like, for example, next week, I'm going back to Detroit, because while we were there at convention, some of us, we were out to about 12, 1, 2 in the morning doing convention, just going out in the streets, just congregating with our people, and doing some form of recruiting. You know, we ended up having a couple of guys from Detroit ended up joining the UNIA as a result of us just being out there proactive in the community. And so, you know, I'm going back to Detroit next week to perform at an event mainly by the youth. And I think one of the major subjects or concepts they're preaching on is drug addiction amongst our young people, and also a high rate of suicide and hopelessness that many of our young people are dealing with on an everyday basis. And, you know, I think that's another way we can recruit as well, just by going to events that are affecting our young people the most, and try to, you know, understand where they're coming from, but also listen as to why they feel or they think and believe the way that they do. And then, you know, we come with, you know, we show true understanding and be very genuine in our approach at wanting to reach out to them. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going back to Detroit, not just to perform, but also to get an even better understanding with our youth. Because for me, I'm at that age now where I'm more in a mentorship role. I'm what you call now a big homie or a big brother. You know, I'm just not an artist anymore. I've done everything that an artist can do. You know, I've made money, so, you know, done events, won awards, all that stuff. You know, but now I'm at that point in life where I want to, you know, reach out more to our youth, teach them the game, teach them strategies that we know that can work, because us as older people, we do have something to offer to our youth, and I truly believe we have to come together with our youth, see what's working on their end, utilize what they have at their greatest strengths, give them some of our knowledge and wisdom, and then just allow them to lead and take it forward from here. Because, you know, I'm always gonna be race first to the day I die, but I don't want to be on the forefront forever. I want my kids, my grandkids to take that baton. You dig what I'm saying?
Yes, that's Shay. So it's been a great broadcast, y'all. I want to thank our guests, Brother Cameron, Brother Everett, and Sister Nellie Neal. Thank y'all for y'all participation. And this is Race1st Radio with the Garveyites and solution-based black media. In that note, I'm gonna leave with Race First.
Race first.
Race first, 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 race first.